It is now 10 wins in a row for the Florida Panthers as they went into Detroit on Easter Sunday on a Sunday matinee, defeating the Detroit Red Wings 6-1 on the road. On this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, we're going to discuss this win over the Detroit Red Wings, 10 wins in a row, and where the magic number stands for the Florida Panthers as far as clinching the top spot in the Eastern Conference. All on today's episode of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, April 18th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from PantherParkway.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at Monoman12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Don't forget to also follow the national show, Locked On NHL, and the Crosscheck NHL show with Andrew Berkshire and Mary Clark. Will be covering all the regular season activities around the National Hockey League. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So now it's 10 wins in a row for the Florida Panthers. Lots of separation in the Eastern Conference now. It's really starting to take into form of where the Florida Panthers are likely, nothing's clinched, likely to be when the playoffs starts. Now, every single team with the New York Islanders losing to the Toronto Maple Leafs last night, all 8 teams in the top 8 have clinched their spot in the playoffs. Now it's all about positioning for the Florida Panthers and the rest of the Eastern Conference. This game versus the Detroit Red Wings, Sunday matinee, 1 p.m., nationally televised, only their second nationally televised game of the season. First one was against the Carolina Hurricanes, and anything ESPN Plus related that you have to pay a subscription for, don't necessarily count that as nationally televised. But second one of the season, unfortunately, happened to be at the same time as the Miami Heat playing. I tell people that it was socially acceptable to dual cast both games, as I was doing, having the Heat game on mute and having the Florida Panthers game on full volume. But with the Florida Panthers, a little bit of a slow start in the first period, like getting their groove in. I mean, the real goal differential, it's funny because a lot of teams would kill to have a goal differential, even starting off games of +3. That's where the first period for the Florida Panthers stand as far as their goal differential in the first period. And that's considered for this team, a goal differential that's not off to the best starts for this team, because I mean, look at the rest of the way for the Florida Panthers on the road. +9 in the second period on the road, +13 on the road in the third period. And again, this is where the Florida Panthers had a little bit of a rough start, going 4-4-4, -1 goal differential. And right now the Panthers are tied for 5th in the NHL with most road wins, only trailing a few teams, and they're all of course all contenders. The New York Rangers are one of them, Boston Bruins, Washington Capitals, Colorado Avalanche, and Calgary Flames. Those are only the 5 teams that have a better road record than the Florida Panthers. And March has been full of these matinee games. You're talking about the one yesterday against Detroit, New Jersey, the one that the Florida Panthers had to have a 4-goal comeback in order to win, and then Buffalo the very next day after the New Jersey comeback. And the Florida Panthers were still crashing the net. Spencer Knight was great. He had a double deflection save on Adam Ernie, and he had a save shorthanded against Dylan Larkin when the Florida Panthers went on a power play. And 2 out of the 3 penalties that the Florida Panthers did commit were in the first period, but they were able to clean it up after. Verhage trips Pia Suter, and the Detroit Red Wings had many of their opportunities. They were limiting a lot of damage, scoreless after one. Okay, the Florida Panthers are still they're still finding ways to gain possession and getting some transition going the other way. And Detroit was forcing the Florida Panthers outside and not having a trailer go speed through the middle of the ice for passes. So the Detroit Red Wings, they were doing a great job in all of that. And of course, now, well, especially this season. Now we're every time the Florida Panthers play the Detroit Red Wings, it's like looking at the matchups between Anton Lundell and, of course, the 2 rookie sensations of Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider of the Detroit Red Wings on the other side. And that it's at least for me, that matchup is kind of under a microscope because, of course, Anton Lundell has missed a little bit of time, and had he not missed time, he would definitely be more in the conversation for the Calder Trophy. But Anton Lundell, a great night as well, getting 2 goals in this one. And Moritz Seider, of course, he's still the favorite, even after a not so good game in this one. He's still a favorite to win the Calder Trophy because, of course, when a defenseman puts a point production the way Moritz Seider has, and commits zone exits as well and zone entries, the way Seider does, he's like the Detroit Red Wings version of Aaron Ekblad, what he means to them as a former 6 overall pick. So that in itself is what's going to help the Detroit Red Wings in their rebuild. And before we go on to the next segment, we talk about the second period and beyond. I mean, there is another scary moment even in the very beginning. Sam Bennett crashes to the net. Alex Nedeljkovic, after shutting out Carolina, comes into this game, and it looks like that he was going to exit early. It looks like Bennett might have as well, but that was avoided. And also, one thing I really liked that the ESPN broadcast did was that they showed Andrew Burnett and company in the locker room of him talking to the team of who they want out there for the game. And I thought that was cool. Something that we don't see often, of course. And with the Bally Sports crew, they do a great job in bringing the game to us. But I wish we got a little bit of more of like what goes on behind the scenes as well. I mean, of course, there's certain things that, of course, should stay private with the team, which I do agree with. But then something like those locker room speeches, like showing a little bit of how players relate to coaches and how coaches fire players up. That is something that we, the fans, want to see, and we want to kind of see more of like a human side to these players. But the only thing we see is like what they put on the ice and then buy. So I wish that there was more of that outside of the nationally televised game. So that's kind of like my thoughts on what the ESPN broadcast did, and lots of praise to from John Buccigross and company on this Florida Panthers team, saying making so many analogies to the amount of firepower that the Florida Panthers have. Like, and one of the goals that the Florida Panthers have, I forget which one, you see Buccigross saying "Holy Shnikes," and I don't know how to spell Shnikes, but Holy Shnikes is right. The fact that the Florida Panthers can just go, 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 and just create goals like it's nothing sometimes. And when they'll go on a little bit of a dry spell in one period, and then the very next period they get 4. And 12 times this season, the Florida Panthers have had 4-goal periods. And this one, in coming into this one, the Florida Panthers had the best goal differential per game, average goal differential per game per victory since the All-Star break, while the Detroit Red Wings were coming into this game as the worst goal differential per game since the All-Star break. The ESPN crew showed a stat on both teams. on where they stand since the All-Star break. So everything indicated that the Florida Panthers were the better team on paper, and it showed, especially in that second period. But we're going to talk about more of that second period in the next segment and talk about the the offensive barrage. I feel like I've been beating the dead horse on that saying, but we're gonna transition over and talk about that. But first, we're gonna tell you all about Athletic Greens. And what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, and whole foods source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, and your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Back on this second segment here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So we were talking about in the first period how the Florida Panthers were trying to create a little bit of transition going the other way, but it was starting to be that way a little bit in the second period. I mean, Mackenzie Weegar had a saucer pass to Verhaeghe through a Detroit defender from blue line to blue line, creating an opportunity going the other way. And a lot of the plays, especially early on, I mean, just if you didn't watch this game and you just look at the extended highlights, you're going to see a lot of the goals that the Florida Panthers scored in this one were coming off of transition, not working the puck around. And even those, if you look at the standings as well, and if you see the Detroit Red Wings aren't near the bottom, you'll see that their goal differential uh, is not so good. I mean, right now, NHL.com updated their goal differential, and they're at -77. I mean, they have more points than the Ottawa Senators and the New Jersey Devils, but they give up a lot of goals. I mean, and it showed in their game against the Panthers, and a lot of them were just off transition opportunities going the other way, turning the puck over and kind of leaving their goalies out to dry. I mean, Nedeljkovic, I mean, he won a Calder Cup with the Charlotte Checkers when they were under the Carolina Hurricanes affiliate right before the Florida Panthers took over. And for the Panthers, you got to give a lot of credit to the defensemen of the Panthers, creating rushes going the other way, and then once they gain the zone, getting it out to the forwards. Once the forwards speed into the zone, they're beating the opposition too. I mean, Montour and Forsling on the first one, they get it to Barkov, and then everyone's eyes are on Barkov. Cross ice pass to Anthony Duclair, gets it in to make it 1-0. 31 goals for Anthony Duclair, and not too like only 90 seconds later, Moritz Seider, he forces Mason Marchment to the outside. Not so where Mason Marchment couldn't have a single angle on a shot, but Pia Suter is too late to pick up Sam Reinhart, and then Mason Marchment is able to get the backhand pass to Sam Reinhart for his 26th of the season. I mean, the great trade once again for the Florida Panthers, getting Sam Reinhart, and now Sam Reinhart almost has 30 goals, 13 of them being on the power play, and even though the Florida Panthers were off to a 2-goal lead at that time at 6:32, Spencer Knight played the puck once again and almost cost the Florida Panthers a goal. We saw that against Roman Josi just a few weeks ago, and then Spencer playing the puck almost gave an opportunity for Lucas Raymond to score to bring it to a 1-goal deficit for the Red Wings, but thankfully Spencer Knight was able to stop it. He ended up going 33 of 34 in this one, and the broadcast also had a lot of praise for Spencer Knight. It's like the development that he's been through, going to Boston College, working under Jerry York, and couldn't they couldn't they said there couldn't be a better backup to Sergei Bobrovsky um, than Spencer Knight. And check out Panther Parkway sometime in the next few days, because I'm gonna have an article talking about how short is Sergei Bobrovsky's leash when it comes to postseason. So so be on the lookout for that, and we're gonna break down both Spencer Knight and Sergei Bobrovsky on some of the highs and lows. But the broadcast talked about how couldn't ask for a better backup for the Panthers than Spencer Knight and Anton Lundell. We spoke about it in the first segment, how it's every time the Red Wings and the Panthers face, I'm looking at those three rookies of Lundell and Sider and Raymond on the opposite side, and they face one more time. They face each other this Thursday at FLA Live Arena, so one more matchup. And Lundell originally gets it to Sam Reinhart. Rhino shoots it on Nedeljkovic. Rebound control is an issue, but in puck retrieval for the Panthers was great on this one. And then Lundell gets the rebound and gets one past Nedeljkovic before he's able to reset. And 17 goals on the season at that time. And the fact that he missed so much time and he's still going to be a 20 goal scorer for this team. You got That's something that the Florida Panthers are just Bill Zito is definitely nodding and said, I made the right pick. And again, if you put this 2020 class in a redraft, chances are Anton Lundell goes higher. He does not go 12th overall. If you were to do a redraft, and not even 30 seconds later, Patrick Hornquist gets the puck in the Panthers zone and then just gets it out quickly to Eetu Luostarinen. Eetu Luostarinen gets it on the rush, and then a saucer pass to Maxim Mammon, forehand, backhand, and then gets it in 4-0. And then at that time, the game was in the hands of the Florida Panthers. Again, 12th time this season the Florida Panthers have had a 4-goal period. That's amazing. 12 times this season. And sometimes the opposition, I gotta wonder what the opposition's think is like, man, how do we stop these guys? I definitely wouldn't want to be the on the receiving end of the Panthers of all those 4-goal periods. And going back to Anton Lundell, on the shorthanded goal that the Panthers had, their fifth one at the 5:04 mark of the third period, Barkov draws a penalty on Sider. Not the best game for Sider, but it doesn't say about who he is as a player. He draws a penalty and gets a beautiful backhand pass. Just seeing Lundell trailing the whole time on the PK, and then Lundell finishes on Nedeljkovic, and that's their 12th shorthanded goal of the season, only trailing Toronto. That's the only team that has more shorthanded goals than the Panthers. And then later that day, David Dork was of Local 10 shared the Finnish language version of that goal. I don't understand a single word they're saying, and I see how they're laughing. I'm assuming they're laughing at the brilliance of Barkov and what a lot of people are starting to say, Barkov Jr. as far as Anton Lundell, and just that's what I was assuming, that they were having a good laugh when it comes to how great those two have been working together on the PK. And the Florida Panthers were perfect on the PK, 3 for 3, and so including getting a shorthanded goal in that one. And on that same power play, they didn't even allow a single shot on goal for the Detroit Red Wings. So full control once the second period started, all the way until the end. And it's weird, because even though when you see Huberdeau and Barkov paired together, usually it's in like situations where it's tied or they're trailing and they need a spark. But we saw Andrew Brunette put Barkov and Huberdeau together even after they went up 5-0. And I mean, the broadcast also spoke about the point production between the two guys, and the the most points in the last 4 seasons between duos. Barkov and Huberdeau are third in the NHL behind Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and of course McDavid and Draisaitl over the last 4 seasons. And that's just and Bucci spoke about why doesn't the NHL do two league awards based on Eastern Conference and Western Conference, kind of relating it to baseball because of the amount of players who will have 100-point seasons. And of course, let's not forget about Igor Shesterkin of the New York Rangers, whose goals against average is almost under 2 as well. And why if you split it between East and West, I mean, there'll be more rewards for these players and more recognition for these players, more marketing for these players. And Jonathan Huberdeau's case would definitely be higher, even though it's a one-person award and it's not 2 leagues. I think Jonathan Huberdeau still has a case for the Hart Trophy. He didn't get a point in yesterday's game for the Panthers, but he was still very active in the game. And even John Buccigross has talked about Huberdeau's game as far as analytics, and it like you hear a lot about that on the show. Mostly talking about analytics as far as Huberdeau. And of course, analytics are great for what they are, but they're not the end all be all. And even John Buccigross saying how the analytics don't like Jonathan Huberdeau, but even John Buccigross disagrees based on Jonathan Huberdeau's play, and that he's very worthy of getting some heart in the heart conversation. So if John Buccigross is talking about that, then like, come on, give this man his due and give this man a little bit of respect because it's so well deserved. Um, but going back to talking about this game, shorthanded goal. The Spencer Knight does not get the shutout. Jacob Verana gets it to Pius Suter, and then Knight thought it was going to be a shot, and then when he gets it to Suter, Knight is unable to draw to his right, and then gets one in. Of course, no shutout, but hey, 33 of 34 in this one, you take it, and you take the win as well. Spencer Knight after the game was asked if he likes when his team gets a lot of goals. George Richards described it as run support, talking like about a baseball analogy for pitchers. And he says, you got to keep the same mindset regardless of lead. And I like that for answer from Spencer Knight, that he's always going to be locked in and he's going to always play the puck and play to this and not play to the situation. And that's what I like about that as well. Andrew Burnett also spoke about how it's not really about the score that the Florida Panthers are having, but it's resulting. And he talks. This is 2 words that Andrew Burnett has spoken about a lot, and the 2 words are checking mentality, about getting in front of your man, having an active stick, lining up your hips and your skates between your man and the goal so that you're not creating passing lanes when you're on defense as well. So he talks a little bit about that as far as positioning as well, and the positioning and the active stick is why why these big leads are happening and why these transition opportunities are happening. It's not really, we see the score, but we don't. But Andrew Burnett breaks it down more than just that. He talks about the effort that the Panthers are bringing in every shift. And this is a team that has a 10-point lead now in over any team in the Eastern Conference, and they're still laser focused on every shift, every game, because it's about creating good habits. And if and of course, personally, I'm glad that the Toronto Maple Leafs won yesterday against the New York Islanders, not because of course I want them to win. I can't stand them, but that the Florida Panthers are not clinching early, even if the Florida Panthers were to clinch early, I don't get the impression that this is a team that would take their foot off the gas coming into the final stretch of the season. And if you saw anything from Sunday that they were going to take their foot off the gas, they I need you to watch that game again, because it doesn't show me anything that they're going to just take any opponent lightly and that they're just so focused. And of course, when you're winning, you want more of that. when you go to practice, you have more of a sense of urgency to come. I mean, you, like let's say you're going to practice every day for the Arizona Coyotes. You know your season's ending, so practices aren't as fun for a team like Arizona. Practices and coming to the rink is fun for these Florida Panthers. That is resulting on the ice for how they when the game starts and the puck drops, they're focused. So and that's really what it comes down to. And these next few games where chances are they're likely going to clinch the top spot in the East. We're gonna see more of how focused this team really is, and continuing to create those good habits that Andrew Brunette preaches all the time in order for them to get to where they want to be. I know a lot of people don't want to win the President's Trophy because of superstitions, and nobody has won since the 2013 season. For me personally, I'm indifferent about it. If you're creating good habits and continuing to find ways to win instead of um being lazy, maybe that's the wrong word, being lazy the rest of the way, and you clinch the top spot, I'm indifferent about it. If they do, whatever. If they don't, whatever. There's no guarantees that the Colorado Avalanche would make the Stanley Cup final if the Florida Panthers get the top spot in the East and the Colorado Avalanche get the President's Trophy. So, get to the Stanley Cup final first, and then worry about home ice advantage. And if you don't get the President's Trophy, whatever. It's not the end of the world. Um, didn't even discuss the final goal of the game. Gus Forsling, a rocket from the point, 7 goals in the last 9 games. You talk about Friday's game against the Winnipeg Jets, getting 2 of them, including one coming out of the penalty box, and the 2 other goals that happened in the comeback against the New Jersey Devils, including the game winner. So 7 goals in the last 9 games, and that's coming from your defenseman. And also, I want to say congrats to Petteri Lindbaum of getting his first point for the Florida Panthers. On the second goal, he had his secondary assist, so his first point as a Florida Panther. So congratulations to Petteri Lindbaum. Congratulations to Spencer Knight going 33 of 34. Sasha Barkov getting 2 primary assists, and Anton Lundell getting 2 goals in this one, to get on his way to a 20-goal season in his rookie year. In the next segment, we're going to talk about the state of the Atlantic and talk about, of course, where the Florida Panthers stand as far as the division, the Eastern Conference, and talk about a little bit of where they stand in the NHL as well. But first, we're going to tell you all about BetOnline. And BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports development, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. And also, this episode is brought to you by Built Bar. And it's the time of year where I pretty much given up on all my New Year's resolution. But not this year. I'm sticking my resolution to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar. They're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with incredible flavors. All Built Bars are covered in 100% chocolate. Puffs included. Low calorie, high protein. Replace your candy bar with these. They're better. At Built Bar, they're all about taste. They make it delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy. I don't know how, but they pull it off every time. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Third and final segment here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. I'm Armando Velez, flying solo today on this Monday, April 18th. Wish I could have gotten this podcast out earlier. As soon as the game ended, it was Easter Sunday. I went over to see my family for the holiday, and if it weren't a holiday, definitely it would have recorded right away. But hard when you have a game in the middle of the day and then you want to see your family. So apologies for not getting the podcast out earlier, but good day for the South Florida sports team scene. Let's talk about that for like a good 30 seconds. Miami Heat win game 1, destroy the Atlanta Hawks. Now they're up 1-0 on the Hawks. The Marlins take 3 out of 4 from the Philadelphia Phillies. So great weekend for South Florida sports in general. And the Florida Panthers, 10 wins in a row for this team. Just continuing to create good habits and creating wins. And this 10-point separation is definitely earned for this team. We spoke a little bit about Toronto and New York, and we talked about how every team in the Eastern Conference has clinched their spot. So I was able to watch the final 10 minutes of Maple Leafs Islanders, and saw that the Maple Leafs got an empty net goal at the very end. They defeat New York 4-2. So the magic number still remains for the Florida Panthers at 5 to clinch the top spot in the Eastern Conference and the conference as well. The Toronto Maple Leafs have surpassed Carolina Hurricanes as far as the maximum amount of points. So that is the team that can possibly surpass the Florida Panthers. And the Carolina Hurricanes are in a little bit of trouble with goalie Freddie Anderson. He went down on Saturday night, and it looked like a groin injury. Don't know the severity of the injury. He had an MRI, but I don't know the results of that. Definitely will provide that on tomorrow's episode if I'm able to find out some information about that. But Toronto defeats New York. Minnesota defeats San Jose 5-4 in overtime, and the Blues defeat the Predators 8-3. In that Central Division, the Blues beat the Wild. They actually swept the season series against the Minnesota Wild. So they're going to face each other in round 1, but it's all about who's going to get home ice advantage in that first round. Minnesota does have a game in hand with 1 point behind as well. So that is one matchup in the Western Conference to definitely look out for. And just going back to the East, 14 points up on Tampa Bay, 8 points up on Toronto with a game in hand too. So it could be up to 10. Everything is falling in place for the Florida Panthers. I mean, you just only got to win 2 games and have 1 overtime loss the rest of the way. And that's assuming that Toronto wins out and doesn't drop a single point the rest of the way. And that's going to be your conference for the Panthers. There's still a 3-point separation between the Boston Bruins and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Over the weekend, the Pittsburgh Penguins were to create some separation on the Washington Capitals. So again, it's looking more and more each day that the Florida Panthers will be facing off against the Washington Capitals, even though Washington does have 2 games in hand on the Pittsburgh Penguins with 3 points behind. So only 5 games left for the Penguins, 7 for the Capitals. So the Pittsburgh Penguins are running out of games to create separation, but definitely have the opportunity to in the next few weeks. It's crazy because the Stanley Cup Playoffs start May 2nd. So we're just 15 days away from it. So again, I was indifferent for wanting the New York Islanders to defeat the Toronto Maple Leafs, because even though I don't get the impression that this team, once again, won't become lazy the rest of the way and they won't coast through it. Maybe coast is the wrong word. But Andrew Imber even said it when he came on. He talked about is like that you're running the clock out and taking a knee to get to the playoffs. But of course, you still want to improve a few things on your team. We're still, even though the power play is improved, you want to create better habits with the 5 forward unit as well. I mean, Ekblad is back to skating, so he's getting one step closer to returning for this Florida Panthers team. Hopefully it's when game 1 happens. We'll see. There's no recent update on Aaron Ekblad on whether he's going to be right at game 1 to be ready, but he's definitely starting his process and his his road to coming back. So just try to create better habits on the power play as well. I saw a few polls on online as well. I'm going to finish off with this. I saw a few polls online of who should start game one, Knight or Sergei Bobrovsky. Before even answering it, I said Bobrovsky is still the starter for game one. Answered it, and then the majority said Bobrovsky. So I'm like, okay, this fan base still understands that even though Bobrovsky can still be shaky, a lot of the fans are starting to understand how much of a bounce back season this has been for Bob. And again, that's why shameless plug. I'm gonna have an article out in the next few days talking about how short is Sergei Bobrovsky's leash in the playoffs. And the answer might actually surprise you when the article does come out. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out on Locked On Panthers. The Florida Panthers do play the New York Islanders in their first and only visit to UBS Arena on Tuesday night. A 7:30 puck drop. It'll be back on the local TV coverage with Goldie and Randy, and we'll be breaking down more of that game with Jacob Winans on Winans Wednesday. On tomorrow's episode, we're going to try to bring in Gil Martin of Locked On Islanders to preview this matchup at UBS Arena on Tuesdays, talking about that game. So we're going to try to bring in Gil Martin to talk about the season and what it is for the New York Islanders, because the New York Islanders are an interesting team for the season they had, and the fact that even though they're not making playoffs, they're a team to not take lightly. Not only on Tuesday, but past this year as well. So we're going to discuss more about that with Gil, hopefully on Tuesday's episode of Locked On Panthers. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast so you'll be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to Locked On NHL and the Crosscheck NHL show with Andrew Berkshire and Mary Clark, who will be covering all the regular season activities around the National Hockey League. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, make sure to listen to today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Hosts Steele Roden and Flip Livingstone help you become the expert of your fantasy team. Follow the Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you get podcasts. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.